You to make better. Welcome to Sachs Realty's Tuesday night podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. Each week, we deliver expert information enabling you to make better informed decisions while keeping more money in your pocket. If you're interested in real estate, this is your show. Hey guys, happy Independence Day and welcome to our Tuesday night podcast.
Happy 4th of July. Yes, we're here at the office, even though it is a holiday.
I know. I think I caught some flack for that.
Well, it's all right. We're happy to be here. We're committed to you guys.
Can't believe that you're going to podcast on the 4th of July. That we are patriots. I'm not saying, but we are dedicated to you guys. Hey, look, if you guys are showing up, we're podcasting. So welcome, guys. Tonight we're going to talk about short-term rentals and the heat.
Yeah.
We could talk about the heat.
We can talk about the heat. Talk about how steamy it's been.
Here.
It's been hot in here. I came in to prepare, and Todd is really working on the computer. And I'm like, it is over 80 degrees in here. I'm like, he's like, I know it was hot.
Yeah, the cleaning people turned the heat on.
We did. Well, that's what we think. We don't
Well, it was on heat.
truly know, but it was on heat. I'm going to say it was their doing.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't. I didn't turn it on heat.
I certainly did not as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we're going to talk about short-term rentals tonight, and why it's important to talk about is, kind of they're under attack right now. And there's a lot of controversy going on with it right now. And, being a patriot, I think that there's a lot of short-term rentals that are owned by small businesses. Actually, people are just renting their own houses. And I want to talk about why I think that they're under attack and why the news is front and center in the news right now, and other things aren't front and center that we're going to talk about too. We're going to open up a bunch of just kind of controversy tonight. I'm just in that mood. We're going to talk about what's happening. We're going to give you some history on short-term rentals. We're going to talk about what is going on with the bookings, why revenues are down. And then also, really, we're going to talk about predictions of, is this inventory, short-term rental inventory, should it hit the market? Is it going to be purchased by, is it available for people that are looking for single-family homes, which I think a lot of buyers are hopeful that if there is a bust in short-term rentals, or a bust, I don't think it will be a major bust, but if there is a bust and inventory hits the market, the question is, and we'll talk about it, do we think that it will be available for you that is a first-time buyer, maybe sitting on the sidelines hoping to buy a home, if we get some price correction and some sanity to the market to where it makes sense for you to do that, or will it just get gobbled up by more Wall Street or institutional investors that are buying the houses that are all ready to go, with the inventory, the contents, and that it's set up. So what do you have to say? Anything?
I just think you're going to shed some light that people may not. Just prior to the show starting, me and you had some back and forth, and I think that people, it's so, you look at the news, you see what's coming in through the news, and then you're like, it's like an aha moment. And I think you're going to be able to give some insight on your thoughts about what's specifically happening. Also with the short-term rentals, it's a different type of, single family housing, even if they're attached, because they are filled with furniture. So it's a different type of process and sale. And, it's kind of new for us to be possibly having all this inventory. So
yeah, and and I want to talk about too, when we get into this, why, I don't understand why the housing market crash is not in the news at all. The only ones that are really talking about what's happening in the housing market, and there's a major decline going on right now.
Right.
We're in the summertime. Days on market are hot. They're are long rather. And we are seeing a lot of, I'm just inundated with price reductions all over the place. Inventory sitting on the market. We're not seeing that in the news. But what we are seeing in the news is the attack on the short-term rental. And I kind of get it because, we get, housing inflation or shelter inflation that's talked about at the Fed level is really dealing with rentals. Not so much about the overpriced housing market and that people trying to buy a house can't afford to buy, but there's a direct, there's really an attack on the rental inflation, the housing inflation, the shelter inflation, which is rental inflation.
Yep.
And, I want to talk about why is this in the news? Like, why are we hearing about short-term rental revenues collapsing? And I want to look at it so you can determine what a collapse is. We have some slides we're going to show you, of which don't pick on me on my slides.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to pick on
At
you.
least the ones that I pulled off the internet that are automatically set, but where my typed slides are.
I know.
So, guys, I can't do a PowerPoint presentation without making massive errors in everything, spelling.
It's
pretty
okay.
much.
It maybe visually isn't lined up the way you would like it to be. I know you're such a perfectionist on that, but it's okay. It's good information.
We had an agent that retired, but her job in life was to critique me in the sales meeting.
I know.
She would always say, she's a writer. Right?
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
So shout out to Ruth, the writer,
Yes.
who is retired and moved on.
Hi, Ruth.
And you can't give me a hard time anymore in our sales meetings because you don't come to them. But we are happy that you retired, and you were a great agent. So anyway, we'll kind of dive in. What else do you have to say? Anything?
Yeah. I mean, many of you, I'm sure, are doing fireworks tonight, but you'll probably be catching the show later. But we do want to hear comments and questions about what you think. And just as Todd had mentioned before, we do have a housing crash going on. You can do the research yourself. You can go on realtor.com. You can look at price deductions and see it for yourself. So it's not being discussed in the news, such as the Airbnb market, and there may be many reasons for that.
I gave them fireworks in our thumbnail.
Did you guys see
Did
the
you
fireworks?
not see our thumbnail?
Sparklers.
They were sparklers.
Sparklers.
They were safe fireworks that you could enjoy right
safe.
before you were watching our Tuesday night podcast.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All right, let's get on with this presentation, guys. We thank you so much for those that are watching right now. I thank you guys. I hope that you saw fireworks.
It's been a long weekend.
I think it's an honor that you're spending your 4th of July evening with us.
Yeah.
But I hope that maybe if you're in California or the West Coast or whatever, you're looking at this and it's still early in the day and you've got plenty of time to grab this content and check out the fireworks. But let's kind of start, because I want to talk about the history of short-term rentals. Now, for those of you that have been following along, I like to talk about history because, sometimes I think that we forget when we're looking at, current data, current statistics, that we think that things are just happening for the first time or, just in the news for the first time or, that there hasn't been any times like this before. So I just want to take a little trip down memory lane as we're talking about short-term rentals, and what that is primarily are rentals that are 30 days or less, or you could even go on to say 60 days or less. And then you kind of get into mid-term rentals. And then, of course, long-term rentals are what most of us are familiar with, where you're signing a lease for a year. And but when we're talking about the history of short-term rentals, this is nothing new. And it dates back, VRBO was actually called Vacation Rentals by Owner. And it was founded in the U.S. in 1995. And, most of these listings were in the U.S., and it was basically for booking vacation rentals. Now, I can remember growing up, looking at vacation rentals, not online, but, that somebody had a house in Ocean City or at Virginia Beach or whatever. And then you could go on and you could rent it, right? You contacted them and, maybe it was their house that they stayed at 6 months of the year, or maybe not. Maybe it was just designed for them and their family, and they opened it up a couple weeks a year. So short-term rentals, certainly nothing new. 1996 comes along. A year later, Booking.com was founded in the Netherlands. And it was a fair aggregator. And what that means is it would take all of the rates. And I guess back then they were literally sitting around, looking, checking out, making calls for hotels and things like that. And they were gathering the rates for the nightly rental of a hotel room, and they were aggregating them on this site booking.com, and they became the first online hotel booking site. And they also started to get into vacation rentals as well. And then we all remember Craigslist, and Craigslist still exists right now. It's kind of, it's a lot weirder space than I say that from personal experiences. I think there's definitely some nuances to it. It's certainly not it's hit the news a lot with not so favorable stories. But anyway, it started out basically as an advertising, site for classified ads. And I know when I started in the real estate business back in the day, when Craigslist came on, I would use it myself to, put the listings, houses for sale, homes for rent, and things like that. So dates back quite some time.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember Craigslist was the site to go to if you needed anything.
Yeah.
Vehicles, and then definitely rentals. I think way back in the day, found a couple rental places there. So yeah, I loved Craigslist.
Yeah. And then we come along, fast forward, we get into 2000s, HomeAway.com, founded in the U.S. By the way, HomeAway is a huge giant in the industry, and they actually gobbled up a lot of other sites, booking sites, according to Wikipedia, 22 other sites throughout the world. And they own VRBO, and that's how they operate today, under VRBO. And a lot of people, they don't know that.
Yeah.
In 2006, they took over VRBO, and Expedia bought HomeAway, the whole conglomerate, in 2015 to become the world's largest lodging seller. And then, bringing it fast forward 2008, and guys, we're in 2023. So when we're thinking about Airbnb, short-term rentals, we'll see later on that 54% of the rentals, short-term rentals that are on Airbnb, have come along since 2020. So this is kind of like while we're diving into this, to understand that there was explosive growth in Airbnb and VRBO since 2020. So we're going to look at a lot of the details from 2019, a lot of the data, so that we can compare whether we're really experiencing the crash that's all over the news. And by the way, I think it's important to say is that, and I've said this before, as far as recessions and things like that, like I question the validity of recessions. I even question the validity of inflation and the true accurate sense of it. Like, how do you really truly gauge it? And, but I do know the power of the media. And I know that if we want somebody to behave in a certain fashion, we broadcast it. Hitler said the microphone is louder than the pen, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing is that when we're told something, when things hit Main Street media, I start to think about the exact opposite of what I'm hearing, because I quite honestly, guys, you can think what you want after I say this, but I question the media, and no matter what media it is, as far as Main Street media, as to why we're being told certain things. We know for a fact that we're fed what we're meant to hear, right? And so I always look into it. When I'm looking at that, I always go, why are they saying this? Like, why are they now attacking short-term rentals? And, and you guys have heard me say it on my podcast, that there are a lot of second homes and people that got into this business that maybe shouldn't be in the business. But when we're looking at something that dates back, that the public has found very resourceful, very helpful in, a short-term rental, and what it allows them to do and go away with their families and things like that, and friends, and stay in one place and avoid the, hassle of a hotel. And if you've ever used Airbnb, when I start seeing where the headlines is intentionally meant to attack this market, I start to think of, they're trying to get the sellers to panic sell. They're trying to get the people that are going through some stressful times or maybe a decline and we're just in the travel months, but now we're getting in the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing the crash of the short-term rental market, the collapse of income. We're going to show you some slides and some data from AirDNA, which is a major aggregator, but I don't think we're going to see the what they're trying to portray in this, and I'm just kind of curious as where it's going to go. But anyway,
they are selling, though. People are selling. People are panicking. People are listening to the media. I follow this. I know I mentioned it before, this Airbnb group on Facebook, just because I think it's fascinating and interesting, and I like to be in the loop in certain areas. And they are selling, and people are like, hey, this is the income I've had for the past 12 months, and it's in this area. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. I don't know where the market's going. And yeah.
Well, a lot of people, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about. So when we start talking about showing the inventory and the amount of listings that were coming on month over month, and we'll get to that. But when we start thinking about what has created a lot of the Airbnb or just short-term rental boom has happened over the last couple of years.
Yes.
So 21 to like right now.
Yeah.
And when we think about the people that have invested in a short-term rental for the purposes of doing that, we forget that they're self-employed people. They're now opening up a business. Mm-hmm. And we know in America that 80% of sole proprietorships or new startups fail within the first 2 years. Yep. So a lot of what we should be saying is, of course, we're going to see a fallout of this massive, we're 50, 60,000 a month of new listings coming on to Airbnb alone. And we start to think there was a lot of people that got into it because of cheap money, because, they're working from home. They're thinking about how they're going to get their side hustle going. They want to dive in. They want a vacation place that they can travel to. They want to invest in real estate. They want to jump on this bandwagon. But most of these buyers are mom and pops, people saying, hey, I want to get into it. So of course we can expect to see that these people are also the most susceptible to the news saying run.
Right.
Because, if you're just starting a business and you're not realizing the profits that you would hope for, and now all of a sudden, and you should be concerned that the media is now going to do the best that they can to try and crash your business. By the way, they're not talking about a housing market crash. We get, the chief economists from everywhere, blah, 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 saying we're still seeing prices increasing 5, 7, 10% year over year. Let me tell you something, folks. Housing prices are coming down. All right? They're coming down. You may not have thought that it was happening, but we've already said since last year, the peak, April and May. Okay, so April, May, June, we started seeing it, right? Peak May, June, most of the country. Yes, we're seeing year-over-year increases in limited amount of inventory, but now guess what? We hit June. Days on market is going up. Price reductions are flooding my inbox, right? And, people are getting wise. They're saying, hey, look, unsure what's going on. Interest rates are high. Yeah, we need to rethink permanence of investment and where we might be in the next 5 years anyway. So this is adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's talk about Airbnb, because Airbnb originally started out as a site. It was actually the first site that allowed people to rent rooms inside the host's home. And, we'll talk a little bit here shortly about some of the regulations that are coming down the pike, again, attacking this short-term rental business, and how, a lot of these municipalities are banning them altogether and getting back to, hey, look, Airbnb hosts, it was meant for renting a room inside your house. You can do that, but you can't rent your vacant house, or you can't leave for a week and bring in somebody else for a week. So yeah, some crazy stuff. So let's keep moving on here. Let's take a look at, let's expand this screen here if we can.
Yep. There you go.
So I want to take a look now, in the real estate business, and, this is certainly no different, because if you think about when things hit the market, when houses hit the market and they get bought, a lot of times what happens is they have to go through some minor renovations, and then people that are buying a short-term rental need to go in and fit the rental out. They need to buy furniture and really any amenity that you think about that you use at home, from an ice cream scooper to a pizza cutter, to
Cheese shredder,
knives, shredders,
Yeah.
right? Cheese
Yep.
shredders, whatever. So you want to make it as comfortable a stay for your guests as possible, like it's home. But when we look at this short-term rental supply, we can see what I had just talked about, kind of, right? But look, guys, this is going back to 2018. So we're looking at January 2018 to really the end of third quarter of 2022. We'll get some data that's coming out. I don't expect it to look much different than what it is right now. We can already see the line was flattening out and dipping a little bit, but still a far way to go from 1.374 million listings, and this is the U.S., by the way, than what it was even in 2018. I mean, we got a long way to go to try and say that the market here is going to crash in available listings. The demand has picked up, but what we're looking at here is really a 23% hike in available rental supply.
That's a big number. I mean, 23%. Absolutely. You can see the huge jump there. Obviously, that goes from January 22.
Yep. So now let's take a look at this is the monthly amount. When I was just telling you 50, 60,000 units a month coming on. So we can see that there was a slowing at the end, starting really from July of last year. We started to see a slowing in the amount of the inventory that was hitting the market. But still, guys, I mean, we're talking about massive growth. We were in October of 22. And what we're seeing here is that 65,955 new listings came on in October of 2022. All right. Again, this is the U.S. only, what we're talking about. That's a massive amount of inventory. And so we are already talking about the house prices were still extremely elevated. We just came off the highest demand for single family housing, 20, 30, 40% in 2 years. Home price increases. So this inventory that we're looking at here, this is not necessarily new inventory, right? So when we're looking at this going that these guys weren't necessarily buying these houses to turn them into short-term rentals. Some may, but when we're looking at these numbers, what we've seen is that a lot of investors, and I know some of them, a lot of investors are saying, I want to be out of the long-term rental business. I have a house. I've had a bad experience with tenants, and I want to go a little different route with this. And this created some problems because we have long-term rental, shortages, right? And we have elevated inventory in short-term rentals. So, but what happened is a lot of these investors are like, you know what, screw this. I'm not going to let the freaking government get me into this jackpot again, to where I can't collect my rents and I can't evict these people for it, right? So, what was happening is and I know a lot of them, they were like, I'm out, I'm getting rid of this house, I'm whatever, whether I'm turning it into a short-term rental or just selling it all together. So I think if we look at that chart, we're seeing that happen. Now, obviously, when we went through the height of the pandemic, the inventory that was coming on the market was very low. And a lot of that was for obvious reasons. People weren't going in others' houses, contractors getting things ready. You couldn't find things for quite some time. So when we're looking at the backlog of inventory that was ready to hit the market, you couldn't find beds. You couldn't find lights. You go to like IKEA and they say that's in stock and it's not. So there was a lot of difficulty with that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the global picture when we're looking at this. Now this is Airbnb we're looking at here. I told you 54% of Airbnb listings have been added since 2020. But again, this chart kind of the same, trends. Obviously, overall, they balanced out when we're going through the pandemic. but you can certainly see coming out at the, really from 2022, we saw a pretty steep increase in listings that hit the market.
Something else, though, because it was like a runaway train with the growth of the Airbnb listings, that county and city didn't even have like really their regulations in. I know that they were I think Baltimore City, you have to live within the home to be able to rent out as a short-term rental. Also with Baltimore County, lead testing, because that has to be done in order to get your certificate for a long-term rental. So all of these things weren't really in place. Kind of as you go, they were making the changes to the regulations.
Yeah, in Baltimore City. I mean, so this is what we're advancing to talk about, is how the government now is coming in and slamming the brakes on these short-term rentals, almost initiating the crash. So you have a lot of places, and Dallas just passed, we'll get to that, but Dallas just passed probably, I mean, one of the most shocking to me, regulations banning it outright, giving the owners a certain period of time to, deal with the new decision. But, and this is where I think the problem exists, is you can't have the government. First of all, we have an inventory shortage that has nothing to do with short-term rentals. And I'm not saying that there isn't issues with the short-term rental business. There are downsides to it, and there needs to be, regulation on landlords or penalties that are assessed. But should we have the government come in and say, you can't do this with your property? I don't think that should be allowed.
No.
If I want to rent my house out, I should be allowed to rent my house out. If I go away on, a work whatever for 3 months or 4 months, I'm stationed somewhere else and I have another house there. If I go away for 30, whatever, I should be able to rent my house out should I choose to do so. So I don't think that the regulation should be, you can't do this. But yes, Baltimore City hammered it down. So, we have Baltimore City. I could tell you 1,000 reasons why we don't have good revenues coming into the city. But when we look at Baltimore City, we've got probably one of the most attractive baseball. Camden Yard is unbelievable,
it's
right?
Beautiful.
The best place to go watch a baseball game. The Orioles are actually doing pretty good now.
Yeah.
But my point is that you have all these businesses. You want investors. You want to bring money into the city and these areas that need it the most. And then all of a sudden they say, well, you can't do these short-term rentals. Well, where are these people going to stay? The hotels, I mean, yuck. I mean, hotels, I can talk about an experience that I just had in our travel for highest and lowest. I mean, so I think that more of this is coming. And, in Baltimore County, they've talked about it. They said, hey, look, anybody that wants to get their short-term rental license better do so now, because we're looking to follow along with that same legislation banning them.
I know.
Right?
Yep.
So anyway, let's keep going. We have any questions?
I'm sure we do. We need to get out of this screen really quick, though. Bear with me one moment. Okay, what's going on here? Let me just see.
And this is kind of different, guys. I mean, we're talking about, this is kind of like a different, it just, this thing just kind of strikes me wrong. When I'm looking at, I spent all weekend looking at data and statistics of our current housing market and what's being reported, what's not being reported. And then I see where, YouTuber hits Main Street media talking about this massive crash in short-term rentals, and they showcase him. And I'm not jealous. I could care less about that. But they showcase this, this YouTuber in this aspect of it. I'm going, why in the world? Why would they be talking about this so much? So it made me dive in even deeper and to say, I don't like what's happening right now with this. I think it's, it's definitely, it's diverting the issue that we have a housing shortage for no other reason that we don't have enough affordable housing in this country for people that are making the median wage, that aren't buying a house with someone else. They can't even afford, if they're a single person, they can't afford a house. And that's the issue here. The issue, why are we diverting things from all the inventory, the 1.3 or 1.5 million Airbnbs in the country, when this has been going on for, years and years and years, and people actually enjoy it. They like staying at Airbnbs.
Airbnbs are great. You feel like you can relax and be in a home and walk around like you normally would in your home. When you're in a hotel, you're cramped. It's such a limited space, and then you can just chill and relax in an Airbnb.
Let me tell you about a hotel experience. The hotel experience is that I have found in the last couple stays is that they're understaffed. Cleaning is optional. That room cleaning. Well, do I want to be green? Do I want to actually have towels that, I have, 2 towels in a room. The last stay, I was just trying to figure out whether I could get something to eat anywhere. And I went down to the desk at like midnight, and it's locked up and closed, and people were gone. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, there was still nobody there. Staffing is terrible. Cleanliness is terrible. The rooms smell. The last ones I've been in, they're outdated. I mean, they look run down and ratty. I can go on, if I can't go on to a hotel site and even see a real picture of a room, I'm looking at photos online. It's not even real. That's not the room you're staying in, not from my experience, right? If you go on an Airbnb site, man, let me tell you, the reviews are great. You can know whether those pictures are real, because the people that just stayed there the last time are going to tell you exactly what they think about the place.
Oh, yes.
Right? So you have transparency. You have a home feel. You don't feel like you're locked into your room. I mean, what do? You guys been away? You go to a hotel, you sit down by the pool with, if you're on a business trip or you're with your friends or whatever. I mean, you got everybody around you don't know. Or you sit at the bar, if they have one, right? I mean, where do you go? You're going to sit in a lobby? That's awkward. Yeah. So what are you doing? You're stuck in your room, or you're going out somewhere else. Airbnb, you get to hang out with your buddies. You can sit out on the deck. You can cook out in the grill. You can do all kinds of things, right? Let's just get rid of all of them, huh?
It's really too bad. There's so many things that why do people not like the Airbnbs? Why
people love them?
So why
the government,
is the government
doesn't like it because they're not getting money on
Yeah.
it. They're being underfeed, right? And they're trying to figure out. They're getting a ton of pressure from the hotel industry.
Yes,
the hotel industry is lacking, obviously.
I mean,
Airbnbs or short-term rentals kicking their freaking butts.
And it's cheaper. More often than not, it's more affordable to go to an Airbnb. And in my case, where I've stayed in multiple Airbnbs, and I've enjoyed it, and go back sometimes to the same place. I enjoy it so much.
Or we could say that there's no travel. So let's look at the next slide. And by the way, guys, I mean, great slides. A lot of this is from AirDNA. It's a great site that aggregates the short-term rental stuff, but let's take a look here, because they're saying, and this is third quarter of 2022, but since we haven't had a major downturn in our economy, according to, I don't know, depending on, I guess, what you listen to with Powell, but we're still looking at record-breaking consumer spending. That it's strong, the economy's strong, unemployment's strong, if you can get a good read on whether that's right or wrong. But when we look at it, we go, okay, the overall U.S. travel industry is booming. Will we agree with that? I mean, I like to think that people are traveling.
People are traveling.
They're going on vacation. Beaches are crowded.
Yes.
People are traveling, seeing family.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're still working remotely, a lot of them, so they can. Travel's up.
I know many people that have been overseas this summer. Many.
Yep. Look at that. Short-term rental demand is high. It's the highest it's ever been. I mean, you go back to 2020, short-term rental demand was high because people were getting the heck out of where they were.
Yep.
Right? And they were getting unemployment checks with, $600 or $700 subsidy from the federal government. They're making more money than they ever had. They say, wow, let's just go away for a month.
Or take that money and buy an Airbnb.
Travel, I like to say that we're looking strong on the travel side of things. What we really need, guys, are some more hotels, huh? We probably need a couple high-rise hotels in every metropolitan area and whatever. And maybe that would look good in our skyscape. All right, let's keep going. We never did take any questions.
No, we just continued to
It's
talk.
like 100 degrees up here. You're sweating.
I know, I feel shiny.
We might need an HVAC technician before tomorrow morning. All right, let's take some questions.
Okay, great.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I maybe I'll just let you know how I really feel.
Well, you know that they love that, Todd. They want to hear how you really feel. Anyway, let's go back. Thank you, Joe, for pulling that up. I appreciate that. So you have just a statement here. I don't think these were ever intended to be residential homes, but when the money flowed, no one cared.
Residential, never intended to be residential homes. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people converted. We've got rent controls that are now going on. We have a lot of landlords that were burned, and, you know, by not getting their rents, and they're small businesses. And I think that, you know, they're trying to just, you know, keep their houses that they have, and they're converting them to short-term rentals. You know, you can be competitive with a hotel room. You can have people in, you know, 50% less time in your home, you know, maybe destroying it or not destroying it, and that you can, you know, make the same amount or if not more money with it. And I think the attraction is there to meet the demand. You know, the public wants it, and the people are trying to fill that spot.
This is what we hear the most.
And by the way, most of the people that I know that have short-term rentals, that's what they did. They didn't buy the house to become a short-term rental. It's very difficult to pay what the price has been in the last couple of years. A lot of them have taken their, you know, the houses that they bought 10 years ago, you know, for a fraction of what it costs now, and they're converting these houses into Airbnbs.
Yeah, there's no doubt it was trending. It was a fun thing to do.
And they're the people that are the ones that just got into it are probably the ones that are going to be hit hard.
Yeah.
They're going to take a hit.
Here's a question. Shouldn't neighbors be able to say they don't want their streets lined with short-term rentals?
Yeah. And I mean, and this is where we start to get into, yes, I agree. All right. I think that there has to be, you know, do I want to be next door to a Airbnb that's a party house? No, I certainly don't. It destroys lives of people that are invested in the community. A lot of these people, they're not invested in the community, the guests, and a lot of the hosts aren't invested in the community as well. And that's the big problem. If you're going to be you're going to be irresponsible and, you know, rent to people that are having these parties, but there are things that you can do to really filter that out. You can limit the amount of people that you're going to have there. You can have lots of cameras. You can, you know, look at their reviews. You know, you own the house. You can say no. You can't go by just the money. If you want to be greedy, then you're going to destroy this industry and it's going to get shut down, right? So when we're talking about the good and the bad, no, I don't think that we should plague our communities with short-term rentals. I think that there has to be some common sense to it. There has to be fines that are imposed, you know, that if there are complaints against these bad actors that are just not stepping up and managing their rental like anything else. If you have a business and, you know, it's a bad business for the community, right? And you're doing bad things to your community because of your business, you should have your business shut down. Right? You should not be allowed to be a bad business in the community. So I think that, you know, yes, we need to be mindful of regulations and rules. And I think that, you know, it should come with heavy implications to the bad actors.
And they've gotten smarter too. I remember when this first, I feel it was like maybe 2019, 2020, and then high school kids were actually renting them locally. And I remember it being like a party house. I think there's much less of that now because the screening has become, more strict, and the video cameras people have put up now on the outside, they've just become smarter with it.
But what you can't do is just blanket across the board. You just can't blanket it and say, you know what, you can't have it. You shouldn't be able to do it. That's not good either. Anytime that the government says that they're coming in to help, you go, geez, what's this going to look like, right? Because it doesn't make sense. And then it always seems to be a way around it. And what happens is, big industry ends up making out, right? You've got whole communities that are being developed right now as rental communities. Entire subdivisions that are being built for rentals, right? Okay, maybe that is okay, but you can't ban people from renting their home to whoever they, however long they want to rent it. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion. I don't think that we should tell people how they can make money or how they can't make money with something that they own. Set up the rules for them, let them run by the rules, but don't ban them altogether. You guys, let me tell you, everybody enjoys them. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody that stays at Airbnbs that doesn't like the fact of hanging out and playing board games or whatever in a home setting with their family or their friends.
It's fun.
Or walking through the neighborhood, nice. Right? And,
it's cozy.
Relaxing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like that? We're going to ban those. Why? Because we got a couple bad actors in the community. It doesn't make sense to me.
No. Hi, Todd. I'm a few weeks from closing on my first house. I have roughly 28% down. Should I be worried about the potential decline of home prices? Should I back out and wait?
I never tell people to back out. I mean, I can't give you that advice. I mean, I hope that you're represented by a good agent that you can talk with and can let you know what they think without being guided by a check, right? I mean, certainly I will say that there are times when people always say your first loss is your best loss. Sometimes when you cut bait, and just move on, even if it costs you money, in the long run, it may be beneficial. I'm not saying that that's this case at all or that you should do that. But what I would say is that you have to feel comfortable with what you're spending on a monthly basis and know that other expenses are going to come along. 28% down is a lot of money. I don't know why you're putting that much money down. Maybe a lot of that's closing costs. Maybe you feel, that you should put down that amount of money. But, if that's what you're qualified for, maybe you bought more house than what you maybe should buy. And that the only way that the monthly payment is affordable is to deplete all of your cash. But I never like to say, if that is all your cash, I never like to say deplete all your cash and not have some type of 5 or 6 month cash reserve should there be some kind of an economic downturn. I'm concerned more than that than I am of your home price declining, unless you're planning on moving in the next 2 years, 3 years. If you like the house, it checks the boxes, you can afford it, you're not depleting all of your cash in buying it, you're buying within your means, and you're going to stay there for 7 years or so, you'll probably be fine. Of course, there's no crystal ball or no guarantee, but even if we see a decline in home prices, the main thing we know is that over time, because we're not seeing deflation, we're seeing disinflation, which means less inflation year over year from where we just came from. That's disinflation, not as high of inflation. Because of that, we're going to see wage growth come up to meet some of the demand. And as a result, housing always goes up with wage growth. What we saw was, ridiculously way over wage growth. I don't think we're going to see that again for a very long time, if ever. The kind of gains that we've seen in home prices. But you need about 10% equity in your home to sell it and not come to the table. with out-of-pocket money because you're going to have transfer, recordation fees, commissions, things like that. So, that will be the constraint, is that you may be stuck there for quite some time.
They had a follow-up comment. Also, the interest rate that I got for the market is 6.5%. Listening to the Todd show scares me.
Yeah. I mean, 6.5%, guys, get used to that rate. That rate is going to taste pretty good, because I think that we might see rates higher than that here, over 7-8%. It's not unlikely. We watched it just a couple weeks ago where we hit just about 8%. So 6.5% rate, if you're looking at, decades of running averages, ran about 7.7% for 30-year fixed rate mortgage. We're not seeing double digit yet. Hopefully we won't, that we saw in the 80s, where we got up to 16, 17%, almost 18% in some cases, depending on credit and things. But 6.5%, hopefully it's not an ARM, adjustable rate where that will go up. But if that's a fixed 30-year mortgage rate, it's probably fine.
Mm-hmm. There was a comment that my laptop is giving off the heat.
It might be. It might be. I mean, it feels kind of hot.
It's a little steamy, but that's okay. Summertime.
It's more like the radiation's baking us from that big screen. Is there radiation in screens? I don't think so.
Know. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I do not think so. Okay. Charlton. Interesting comment here. Bed and breakfast outlawed in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Hotel and motel rule here.
Yeah. So that's bed and breakfast. We're not even talking about Airbnb, but here, I mean, they're telling a mom and pop, you can't operate in a bed and breakfast here in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You have to stay in a hotel or a motel, folks. Fortunately, there's a maybe it's still nice, but there's a hotel called the Hotel Hershey, I think.
Yeah.
That's a nice hotel.
I bet it's nice. It's just nice up there.
It's kind of freaky, though.
Is
it's
it?
Like old, and like the pictures, you almost feel like the eyes on the photos follow you around and stuff.
Do they do that purposely? Is that part of the...
I don't think there's anybody. It's not Harry Potter. This is not.
I love
nobody's
Harry
behind
Potter.
It. Nobody. They don't talk to you. Whatever. No, but that. I mean, it's a cool place.
Like a hologram.
Yeah, it's definitely
that would
a cool
be.
place.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna need that to get me back to hotels.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so funny. We have another comment here. After living in Europe pre-COVID and with how popular Uber, it became very interesting to see how unions and local government ensured they were compensated. Now we see it starting here. Should get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to impose fees.
Yep.
They ban short-term rentals in Baltimore City, but we just legalized marijuana as of July 1st.
Yeah, guys, that's really the large news for the state of Maryland. Is
I think 9% sales tax on it or something.
Is it really?
Like alcohol tax or something.
It's interesting. I think, and also you have to pay cash.
I don't think so. Not
really?
Anymore. I don't know. I don't think so.
Because I think
don't
it's not federally regulated. I don't
that,
know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, that was really big news, July 1.
We'll ban Airbnbs. We'll let you all smoke pot.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging you guys. Hey, do whatever you want.
No,
I'm just saying it's a fact. July 1, Maryland, we legalized marijuana for recreational use.
That's right. And the line was wrapped around.
Or was it?
At the dispensary.
Was it?
Yes.
Were you in the line?
No, I was driving by, but it was.
I was asking for a friend. I was just asking.
It was like patient first during COVID. I'm not kidding. It was like that long of a line wrapped around the dispensary. Yeah, pretty wild. Okay.
No lines around Airbnbs.
No.
All right.
So we have another comment here. Our area has seen several new hotels just in the past couple of years, which makes sense because of all of the big trade shows in the summer. I'm sure that's cut into the Airbnb business.
And the thing is here too, and so when we look at this, I look at the yellow cab company, right? How Uber comes in and Lyft, and they completely tear down the taxi cab business,
Right.
right? I mean, they just completely annihilate it.
Yeah.
They give people an opportunity to make money, get a side hustle, right? Whatever. I mean, they was booming, right?
Oh, yes.
Of course, the taxi cab, I'm sure the unions were lobbying or whatever, having a fit or whatever. And then maybe a lot of the taxi cab drivers are just like, screw it. I'm going to turn my keys in and just use my personal car and make money instead of renting this cab because I'm getting my butt kicked. But you can't see a hotel owner just be like, hey, screw it. My 120 room hotel, I'm just going to get out of it. So what they're doing is they're saying, hey, guys, we want to try and give you the Airbnb experience. So now they're doing keyless, like cardless entries into the hotel. You can bypass the desk completely, right? You just download the apps, whatever, go and get it. Now they're starting to put vending machines in, like with beer and stuff like that. And, so trying to like say, hey, you can be cool here at our hotel. But my question is, why weren't they doing this stuff way back when? Why weren't they the innovators of, the short-term rental business? I'll tell you why. The innovators of the short-term rental business were the consumers themselves, right? I mean, it's attainable. I can't go down and buy a hotel and just start a hotel business, but I can take one of my rooms in my house or my basement or whatever and rent it out and make a couple extra dollars in it, especially now when I might need it.
Yeah.
Right? So let's give the opportunity for these people to do it. If you're going to ban them completely, you should at least let them do it in their own home.
I really can't wait till we get to start talking about Dallas because I am wondering, were there multiple complaints? I mean, obviously,
You're assuming I know about Dallas?
I'm huffing.
Just put me under. You're putting a lot of pressure on me.
We're just going to open up the
it's
forum.
The 4th of July.
The reason why.
It's a holiday. You guys have me working.
I just
By the way,
know.
I said, no, guys, I'll handle 4th. Don't worry about it. I'll just go live on my phone or something and just, whatever. And you're like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Well, I'm not.
That's no.
Right.
No, you're not doing it without me. That's
You guys
not
were
happening.
like, let's do this. Let's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Shout out to you, though. I am grateful.
I know you are.
It,
Not
it makes
grateful.
me know that we are a team here.
We are.
And we do love our audience. And Joe behind the scenes, man, he's
Yes.
dug right into. And we do like what we're doing. And it's fun.
It is
bringing
fun.
This stuff, even though I have to actually do real estate transactions during the day. I like that too. I do love
I mean, we
that.
are a real estate company.
We are a real estate company. I still have to manage and
Buy and sell houses.
yes.
Yes.
Not literally,
No.
but help people buy and sell houses.
But help people, of course. Yeah. Of course.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
And we are getting people deals too.
Yes.
We've helped some of our audience
Recently.
Get some deals. It's been fun.
Which is, it's
Hey,
very
can you all buy a house in Maryland so we can help you?
I know. Reach out. We're here to help.
And even if you don't want to move here, you can just buy a house.
Yeah.
Just so we can help you, represent you, get you a good deal. That's what we like doing.
Yeah. Let's answer this question. Hi, Todd and Melissa. A buyer here and waiting, but I still find it stupid for home sellers to hold on to their homes too long. Why aren't there many listings and in reality we have low inventory?
Yeah. I think they're holding back. I think builders are holding back inventory. Some builders even raise their prices, because they realize that, hey, we've got the only inventory in town and we're not going to give it away. So I think that, the market is, we're short. There's so much red tape to break ground and build houses. I mean, if you just want to go build a house, it will take you months, weeks, if not months, just to get a building permit, depending on where you are. And when I say months, literally, it could take you 3 or 4 months to get a building permit if you want to build a house, which is complete insanity to me, why it should take that long. You've got like 7 different departments to go through. They can't all just come together and say, yeah, it makes sense. You have an engineer involved, an architect, whatever. Let's go ahead and push this through and get these people started. A lot of the places have impact fees. The counties have massive impact fees, $2 a square foot. You build a 4,000 square foot house, your impact fee is $8,000. Or you say smaller house, 1,600 square feet, 3,000, $3,200 in impact fees, not counting your permit. And then there's a lot of other burdens that you have to go through with stormwater management, excuse me, and utilities, just getting that in place. So, a lot of this, we need to fast track some of this process. And honestly, that will cut down on a huge amount of expense, right? So, if I look at it, if I'm in the commercial real estate world and I'm going to build something in a county or whatever, and I'm going to bring jobs and, I'm going to have a lot of power to be able to say, I want tax incentives, tax cuts, tax breaks. And, and it looks really good for the politicians to do that, right? Hey, I'm bringing this big grocer in, or I'm bringing this big company in. They're going to create 30 jobs. Sometimes you look at it, you're like, what? Really? Just gave them 10 years of tax credits. They're going to create 30 jobs, but whatever. They're going to be great for the community. And, but yet when you have a crisis going on here called a housing shortage, why the heck aren't we doing something massive in an attempt to build affordable housing? Why aren't we straight lining, going straight to, whatever it takes to the developers and saying, guys, build these houses right now. We have the power to do it. We're going to push this through. We're going to get you what you need. We're going to cut the red tape, cut the costs, and we're going to find houses for these people that are in need and desperately struggling. No, because it's easier for us to just pay for it through whatever means to be able to, bail out, print money, do other things, raising cost all the while, but not cutting this red tape, this bull crap to make things happen. We want to attack other small businesses. We want to go after the small business owner and say, you can't rent your house for 2 weeks. You're not allowed to do it.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right? Why are we even talking about this? This is a ridiculous story. Mm-hmm. This is insanity, right? Why is it getting Main Street media coverage? It's not that big a deal. Let me tell you something. If I pulled the Baltimore Business Journal, the BBJ, and I looked at how many businesses opened up in the last 30, 60, 90 days, and I took all those businesses, am I going to track them?
No.
And figure out oh my gosh, they're losing revenues. These businesses are losing revenue. Of course not. We're directly attacking the Airbnb or short-term rental business for no other reason is that we're trying to push these businesses, these people out that are making money, trying to stay afloat, trying to earn income, and we're going to push them out and try and make them panic sell because the media is going to make this thing all across right. It's going to hit the airwaves and make people freak out and say, if I don't sell my house now, I'm going to lose more tomorrow, and that's what's going to happen. And people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not making money. This month I only had 2 bookings. They're saying that the market's crashing where the demand's up. People are traveling. People love it. Makes 0 sense, guys. Why we let this kind of madness go on? Makes 0 sense to me. Was that a rant?
It was. 100%. 100% it was. I appreciate it. I like it. And
I am not, and look, I got problems with Airbnb too. Bad hosts. I do have problems with that. But guys, let me tell you something. We're not even at the point where I'm going to give you my prediction. It's 9 o'clock.
But I will say, if you do have a bad host, Airbnb support steps in and they're amazing. I had a situation, I couldn't get into a pool. I was ignored. And Airbnb made it right. Support. So I'm just going to say that even if you do have a bad experience with a bad host, it was fine. It was made right. And I left a decent review. So, yeah.
I'd like to read that review. It was decent. Thank you, Airbnb. The host sucks, but Airbnb was great.
Well,
so
pretty much.
I'll keep using Airbnb.
Right. I'll keep on using.
Give me
Airbnb.
my money back. I'll love you even more. I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
kidding. We got any more questions before we continue with the slides?
We do. We absolutely do.
Right, hopefully, you guys are listening to fireworks and they're going, and now we got you. You're late at night. You're laying in bed. And you're like, what, man? Like, how can I sleep with this guy talking?
Oh,
Jeez, you have to make a decision, guys. You have to either turn me off or just stay up.
just stay up.
Just stay up.
Husband and wife here enjoy the show. We have been interested in buying since 2019, but didn't have the money then. We are cautious. It was expensive, but then prices really ran away from us here in Florida.
Yeah, and I was just down in Florida, and I know Florida's a big state. I was just in a couple areas, West Palm Beach, Boynton Beach, and Boca Raton. And, spoke with a couple agents there, and they were talking about, the market's not crashing in our area, whatever, a lot of cash buyers still happening, things like that. I think that Florida is softening. I think there are pockets in Florida, and depending on the price point, if you're in the $400,000 range, I think you can get a deal. If you're trying to find something for $200,000, that market is going to stay strong no matter where you are. I have a feeling, because you've got all these investors that want to buy up real estate no matter where it is, and anything in that $200,000 price range or less that's not considered to be a very questionable area is going to get scarfed up. So when we're looking at outlying areas, rural areas, and you're in that 200,000, or I'd say like 260 less, 280 less than that, and it's still in a very desirable area and a move-in ready house, that market is going to probably stay relatively strong just because of the pressure and the amount of cash that's in the marketplace to scarf up investment properties. But when we start getting into the sweet spot, like the fours, the mid fours, the fives, these houses that are sitting on the market, or I would even say threes, depending on where you are, 300,000 to 550, these houses, we're starting to see a lot more sitting on the market, longer days on the market. Now, the sellers have to make a decision. Am I going to sell? Or now I'm just going to hold on to it because I've got a low interest rate and I don't need to sell it. And then you're going to have the ones that need to sell. They're the ones that you're going to be able to get in there and start hammering away, get a good price, and get everything fixed. They're not going to want to lose the deal. This is going to increase as we get closer and closer to the holiday season. So if I'm looking at a house right now and it's June, I'm thinking, man, a lot of people are away, or it's July, sorry. It's July, and a lot of people are vacationing, right? July, August, big vacation months. If I'm looking at a single-family house that's attracting, a family with kids, I know that back to school is going to be a big distraction. So I know that I'm knocking out a lot of my competition as a buyer here moving forward in this year. Now, if we're taking a house that's $300,000, or like I know somebody had just bought a house in Texas, I think it was listed for, I don't even know, I'm going to say 350, maybe 360 originally. It was hammered down on price. They did a massive price reduction. And, I was actually, it was a friend of mine was kind of like advising him in the deal, and he ended up getting for 305, which, is a great price for what he got. And in a great area in Texas, and great HOA, low HOA fees, great amenities in the community. So when we're looking at a house that starts in 350, 360, and now you're at 305, or maybe it was even 340s, whatever, but we're talking about a 10% price decrease. And, and yes, it did need a little bit of work. It needed some paint and some carpet and some love. It was, just older people living in the house. They didn't do anything really, but they were trying to sell it for a I did everything price. And that's the big thing when we're looking at inventory for our buyers. We want to make sure, what is your, what can you do? What can you get away with doing? Like, what are you good at doing? Can you paint? Can you do this and that and everything else? And, are you willing to do that? And, we can look at those types of houses and really get good deals on them right now, especially when we're competing with a community right down the street that's in the 380s, the 420s, that's a brand new development, right? So now what we're looking at, the difference between 305 and 405 is a huge amount of difference for the same square foot house, the same amount of bedrooms, same amount of bathrooms, just being 20 years newer. $100,000, it's a lot of money, right? And by the way, that is the builder entry level to where you end up spending more money than that.
Yep.
But still, it's enough of an attraction to prevent that seller from getting their doors kicked in from buyers. So we are seeing huge buyer decline. But guys, what we're talking about here when we're looking at, let's take that scenario. Let's just say, that buyer saved an extra $20,000, which is quite possible to say. Keep in mind that that's still not the end of the world, right? When you're looking at $20,000 over a 30-year period, I want you to get a good deal on your house. But for those that are already under contract and are stressing, wondering whether they should walk away, you're probably not looking at that much of a discount difference if you found the perfect place that you love.
Had a comment here. People are still looking at rates like it's the most important part of buying a home. It's the purchase price.
Yeah.
That is what people need to be looking at.
Yeah, 100%. So lenders like to say date the rate. That's kind of like, to me, that's not a very professional thing to tell your clients, because rates aren't guaranteed to go down. And, they say, hey, don't worry about it. You can refinance it later. There's so many different variables that come into play when you're trying to refinance a house. One is that the value has to, still be strong, because if the market does weaken, that's where that extra $20,000 can burn you. If in a year from now you do see more house decline and you're depending upon refinancing, then you can find a situation where you can't, because it doesn't appraise for what you need it to appraise for to refinance. But other than that, there are fees, that very expensive fees in refinancing, transfer or recordation fees, things like that. And then when you take that into play, depending on what state you're in, plus your lender's fees, and you add that up, that really extends the amount of time that you have to live there for it to even pay off. And it has to be significant in points too. It has to really be a drop, like a point drop or more, not like a quarter point or a half a point or something like that. It won't make sense. Now, I'm not a lender, but look to your lenders. I've been in the business long enough to know, though, that what I'm saying is true.
How about this one? I just accepted an offer on my condo. Will make net profit of 28 grand in just 7 months of owning it and not making much updates. My agent wants me to go with a title company that they own. Thoughts on that?
I don't see any. Title companies, at least when I'm talking about Maryland, I'm not familiar with a lot of states, but I would guess it's the same way. The title company is kind of like a neutral party. They're facilitating for both the buyer and the seller. The biggest question is, you're selling, you're not buying, so there's no title insurance that you're going to be looking at, paying. It's disclosed. I don't see a problem with it. It happens all the time. A lot of brokers, because they can't make money selling houses, make money doing, and I know people are like, what? Brokers don't make money selling houses. Believe me, the agents, the brokers, we're not getting into that. But anyway, a lot of brokerages own title companies and mortgage companies, and for that reason, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Following up on the 28% down question that we had earlier, it just says 28% down was just trying to knock down the monthly as low as possible. Even after that, I still have more than 6 months of expenses saved.
Yeah, I think, the butterflies that you're feeling is nervous, jumping into home ownership. You're putting almost 30% down on your house. You have 6 months of expenses paid. If you're going to be there, God bless you. Just move forward.
Yeah. That sounds...
Yeah. You obviously
secure.
like the place, and it should be an exciting time for you. And once you mentally make that jump, and that's a big thing. And I like seeing that, especially from my first-time buyers. When they're struggling at first, or splitting hairs, or wondering whether they're making a bad choice, but they're in that maturity in their life where they're ready for it, right? That's a big difference than just the exuberance that I've seen with a lot of buyers that just had to have it because their friends were buying a house, and then they buy it and they go, man, you know what? I don't like the neighborhood. I wish I hadn't have done this. My expenses are higher than what I expected. I want to move out of state. I want to relocate. I hate my job. When we watch this, we go, guys, this is why we screamed from the mountaintops about the housing market crash, to try and prevent people from making mistakes. So, but if you're mature in your processes and your thoughts, you're financially secure, you find a place. Buying a house is a lifestyle. Okay. If you look at it that way, don't look at it as, hey, I may make money down the road, whatever, that's a bonus, but it is a lifestyle. If you like where you are, you like the house, dig in.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to go back to the slideshow?
Yeah, we got to go back to Airbnb.
I think we need to.
All right, we'll do that. All right. And we'll try and wrap it up at least a decent time. So
sure.
I know this laptop's
yeah.
really, really big, but if we don't expand it, I can't see it.
For your vision.
It's all in front of Melissa here, and she doesn't want to hide me. So I know if I push the laptop over this ginormous machine, it would hide me, throw off a lot more heat. I'd be sweating more and probably would affect my speech. So we don't want that to happen. But anyway, let's look at this. So guys, and this is where I want to kind of dive in. And I'm not saying that AirDNA is, not reporting the data or whatever. I think that they are. They're doing a great job, giving them the credit and the source here. You can look this stuff up yourself. But I think it's interesting when we look at 31 of the 50 markets, they say they saw falling occupancy in Q3 of 2022. And, really when we're looking at this chart here of all of these markets, you can see a lot of them: California, Florida, Texas, right? Tennessee. I mean, look at the majority of this. So when we're looking at this chart, I wanted to point that out because these were the areas that we saw the most massive amount of growth. So if you were moving to, and some of the biggest domestic migration, right? If you were moving, and these areas in California are no different. Yes, people moved out of LA, but I guarantee all of California did not vacate, okay? But what happens in a lot of these areas, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, these people were like, I want to move. So what did they do? They went and rented a Airbnb or VRBO so that they could scout out the area. Right. So when we saw so much domestic migration over the last couple of years, it makes sense. This is making it sound like, oh my gosh, these vacancies and occupancies are falling, but we have to look into and understand what was happening during this time. All right, so here we go. So this is a relatively new one. Newsweek just published this June 29th. These are the 9 cities where Airbnb's revenue per listing have seen the steepest declines according to the data, right? So again, we're looking at New Orleans, probably a lot of competition. Orlando, Florida, same thing, right? Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Washington, Texas, Arizona. This is not a surprise to me.
No, it's not a surprise. I mean, people were going there. They were, as you said, working remotely, and now real life has come back into play. So, and it's a 9.4%. I know that's going to be really hitting a lot of people in the pocket, but some will be able to sustain.
We're just coming into the real vacation and travel months ahead.
True.
So it'll be interesting to see where this is. But really, we're looking at, these are, recent numbers. So let's keep going. All right. So in this, and I don't want to get into this whole chart because you guys will fall asleep. But what I do want to talk about is the nights listed, the percentage of change, right? So the available listings, we already talked about that. We know since 2019, there have been more people turning their long-term rentals into short-term rentals. We know that more people that have been buying vacation homes. We know during the pandemic they wanted to be anywhere other than where they were, especially if they were
Correct.
in New York City, where the whole freaking city was in lockdown and people were living in 800 square foot, apartments
Yeah.
with three or four people or whatever. So we know people wanted to get out. We had tons of stimulus, a lot of money printing, cheap, 0% Fed rate netted to ridiculously low, even commercial financing. So it afforded a lot of people to get into the business. And I think we will start to see some of that thin out. But this is forecast. Again, 2022 wasn't complete data, but 23 forecasted 1.4 million in listings. So we can see quite considerable change. The nights, the listing, the percentage of changes through the year, we see that from 2022 to 2023, there's a drastic decline in the nights, and then the demand change we see drastically drops off. 2020 was low, in the negative in respect to 2019 and 21 and the forecast here for 22, but they are forecasting that there will be a slight dip in demand. And, and I think for multiple reasons, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what they're expecting, but occupancy rates is the important thing I want to look at here. Hasn't changed much.
No, it hasn't.
So even though the demand is backing off, they're predicting that, we're going to be looking at the same occupancy, even better than what was pre-pandemic, if this is correct. Right, 58.3 through the year of 22, 56.4 occupancy rate, right? So we get into average daily rate. We've seen that has gone up significantly. So the occupancy rate hasn't changed. We got a lot more inventory. It's still better than pre-pandemic, but when we're looking at the nightly average rate, rental rate, it's elevated. And then when we get into, average daily rate, that really is, percentage of change year over year, and the rev per available rental. So they basically take the occupancy and they look at the average night rate and they give you this real rate of what it would be like if you were full. So 156.98. We're still looking at, they're massive, 4,500 a month in some of these rentals, right? Is what
Looking
some
at
of these
these
people are
numbers,
looking.
what is the cause for panic?
Well, I think again, it's you have to look at the agenda. I think that the government doesn't want these people making money, on this type of asset. And they want to make it seem like they're doing more for, shelter inflation by bringing it down. And they figure if they can hammer away on, an industry that's thriving and doing well, it's doing well because people want it. People want it. Guys, people want it, right? Let's get rid of this madness. People want it. This would not be a success if people didn't want it, right? So I think that, it's agenda.
Yeah.
It's agenda. So we can look at some of these 23 highlights. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but basically what it's saying is that things are still relatively strong in the short-term outlook, rental market outlook. This just kind of goes over what I said, how you take the lower daily rate, or it just shows how they come up with the revenue per available rental. It's a little different than hotels. Hotels are revenue per available room. So that's just how the industry, ranks, kind of uses as metrics to determine whether it's cash flowing or a positive business to, cash flow business to be in. But so they say, we've got a situation. If we're going to watch where revenues are coming down, so these business owners have to make a decision, right? They can either lower the rate to encourage a higher occupancy rate, or they can maintain a higher, average daily rate or rental rate if it means sacrificing occupancy. Well, if they're predicting occupancy to be at 56%, I think, guys, if you're in this business and you're panicking, don't sell. If you can make it, don't. I know it sounds crazy. I'd love to see the inventory at the market, but don't be bullied by this is what I'm saying. If you shouldn't be in the business and you made a mistake, then get out. But if you're honestly need the revenue, you need the income, it's something that you wanted to do, don't let this scare you in to get out of this business, because what's going to happen is we are going to see this affect a lot of short-term rental owners. They're going to get out, and that's going to strengthen your position. So if you drop your rate, which is also it's affordable, if you take these rentals across the nation, I'm not saying that some of them aren't overpriced. If you want to look at the mountain or the lake or the whatever, and you want to be there, of course you're going to pay more for that. You always have. You go down to Ocean City, Maryland, you're paying ridiculous rates, right, for what you get. But you're in front, you got an ocean view and alcohol down the street. But the thing is that don't be bullied by this, because what's going to happen is enough people are going to get out because they made mistakes. And these are deals. If you have a $350, I heard fireworks. If you have $350,000, and the $350,000. If you have a $350 a night that sleeps 6 people, tell me where you're going to get a hotel room for that.
That's exactly right.
So make the money. What else we got?
Okay.
All right, this is just another article. I know you keep like
I was
to make
looking
this
at the
small so
comments.
I can't see it. But this is just an article that hit Forbes. Again, just to prove my point that we're jamming this agenda, whatever it's meant to do. It's just talking about, this is kind of supporting why people like these types of things, right? We know that people like a share community. We know that's why they're doing Ubers and riding together and things like that. We know that people like that, kind of trend, coffee shops, whatever. Well, they like it here too, the Airbnbs. But are saying more people are living in rental properties than a decade ago. And the market for short-term rental alternatives is seeing nearly 20% growth year over year. Coupled with the rise in remote work, these factors can make owning a home seem more like an economic burden than a long-term safe bet. This is Forbes, guys. Forbes are like for people that want to believe in, in employment, self-employment and small businesses here. This is they talk about big business too, but this is telling you right here, look, people want this stuff, right? So it should be something that, and people are scared to dive into a long-term debt of owning a home now more than ever because they don't know where they're going to be in 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Some of the benefits, owning short-term rentals, it helps local homeowners make ends meet. It creates local economic benefits, supports the local bars, restaurants, shops. Landlords, they're finding they can evade rent controls where, the government's coming in, telling them they can't raise their rents. Allows guests to stay with their families and friends for cheaper. Guest privacy, avoid today's hotel experience. I told you my recent experiences in hotels, and allows people to travel and work remotely in a home setting. So if you want to go away for a month and you go ski somewhere, you get an Airbnb, and you can be there with your buddies. You can work remotely and ski when you get off work. Allows people to sell their home and stay. So we watch this benefit a lot of people. I just told you about domestic migration, why we saw Florida, Tennessee, Texas boom in short-term rental. Now they're seeing steep decline because there's not as much migration, where people were like, I can sell my house, I can go live in a short-term rental for a month or 2 months while I look for a house in this other state. Drawbacks, less long-term rentals available. Obviously, that is a problem. We need to up our game and, really get on our legislators to say, hey, let's cut some of this red tape. Let's get some affordable housing going, and let's start building, houses that aren't 3,000 square feet, that are $800,000 entry-level homes up into $1 million, $1.1 million, $1.4 million, which is ridiculous. People can't afford it. You got to make $5,000, $6,000. Your mortgage payments $5,000 or $6,000 a month, $8,000 a month. This is craziness, guys. To live what in a house? Not saying that, hey, if you had the money like that, but why are we catering to that price point when we know that people can't afford it? And we've got all this inventory and all these lots sitting that are unsold. And, and the builders, I don't know, I guess they think people are going to make a lot more money here shortly And I think we're going to see the exact opposite. But short-term rentals are disrupting hotels, upsetting them. It's tapping into their revenue, and they can't afford to staff, which is, adding to their demise. Cities and local governments say they're missing tax revenue, lack of long-term rental inventory, drives rental rates higher. Yes, we know that. It's expensive to outfit these short-term rentals, expensive to clean, and they can become banned, which is what Melissa's pressuring me into. New York, Santa Monica, Anaheim, California, they've seen legal battles, and these are growing. Here we go. June 14th, Dallas approves new rules banning short-term rentals in single-family neighborhoods. And here's the thing. It was voted 12-3, right? So recommendations greenlit by the City Plan Commission in December to change zoning rules to ban rentals listed on platforms like Airbnb from operating in single-family neighborhoods. Completely, see you later, goodbye. Only one rental in a single unit and requires off-street parking. The proposal was amended to allow them to keep operating in multi-family zones only. And the council members, Chad West, whoever these people are, voted against it. I guess they were the three pointed out here. But these bad guys here were against this, so they may not get elected again. Why housing shortage and predictions? Why the housing shortage and predictions? I told you my skills of making these PowerPoint. I made this slide.
You don't like this slide?
I made it.
Oh, I know you made it. I think it's great.
I typed it.
It's perfect. You did a great job.
I already said red tape to build new affordable housing, builders only building expensive homes. And so I guess, guys, I'd like to know your comments. You can drop them below if you haven't already done so. What is your thought on the reason for the attack on short-term rentals? And guys, by the way, before you attack it too much, stop and think and say, have I ever stayed at an Airbnb and did I like it? And maybe even ask yourself, is that the last 5 stays at Airbnbs? Have you not been to a hotel since you stayed at an Airbnb?
Yeah.
Grandparents are renting Airbnbs.
It just makes more sense. It makes traveling easier. It's more comfortable. I enjoy it. I've, for the most part, had wonderful hosts. It's just a good vibe. I mean, why wouldn't you enjoy it?
Do we have any more questions
yes.
before we sign off here?
We sure.
I am like boiling.
Are you?
Yeah, it's hot in here.
It's very, very hot. It's very hot.
The office has been locked up for 3 days.
I know.
4 days or however long it's been since we've been here.
I know. Let's see.
By phone. Why aren't you at fireworks? Where are you? Where you should be at fireworks. Why are you podcasting tonight during fireworks?
Oh gosh, is it possible that insurance prices are going up due to people?
I think you set that up.
I did not.
You had people do that.
I did not. I'm not even checking my phone because I know that that's what's going on.
What?
Is it possible that insurance prices are going up due to people renting out their houses and even their cars? Do you know of people renting out their cars?
Of course, you can rent out anything. I mean, you can rent a van, a tent, a bus, a tree house, a
personal
fort,
renting of cars, though. Like I only know like Enterprise, right, for renting cars. But
people probably have cars in their backyard that you can rent for like $3 a night or whatever.
Wow, that's new to me. I don't know that. I guess, yeah. I mean, you can. Do it all.
If you haven't been on Airbnb lately, you should check it out. It's pretty crazy. You can actually pick your adventure. I mean, like, what do you want to do? I was looking at this one. It's a tree house. There's no power in it, but it's literally like 30 feet in the air.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you got to climb this like wicked ladder or whatever.
Where was
you were up in and the tree's dead. There were no leaves on the tree. I'm thinking, how long was the tree dead? They spent a lot of money building this daggone thing. It was freaky, but intriguing.
Interesting.
And I don't know. I'm still not. I may do. We may see a podcast from a.
Yes, please.
I might have to record it.
You're going to need to bring a little lantern
if I don't have
at night
service.
Oh my God.
But anyway, let's get back to this. Insurance, yes, insurance is going up. Actually, people are getting canceled on insurance. I mean, they come in and they say, well, this or that or whatever, and now we no longer write or underwrite this type of thing. You have a short-term rental, it's vacant, half the time. We don't rent or insure vacant properties because whatever. Yes, it's a problem. It's pushing people into different, categories and price points. Insurance is going up, it seems, all across the board. And that's one of the big thing. I mean, I just had a new buyer said to me, they've been in the house for a year and they're like, man, my taxes went up to this. Is that right? I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it was taxed at this when I bought it. I'm like, well, guess what? It's because it hadn't been sold in 10 years and they were taxing you $240,000 and you bought it for $570. I mean, they're not taxing you at $240 anymore.
Right.
So a lot of people don't realize this is when they're buying it, their mortgage payment is not their payment. It goes up. Your insurance is going to go up. Your taxes are going to go up. Your property taxes are going to go up. And yeah. And I mean, look, that may be one of the reasons why they don't want property values to decline. No one wants to talk about a housing crash. No one wants to talk about that houses are 40% more than they were just 2 years ago. People are making 40% more in their salary. No one wants to talk about a correction. It's not going to correct. I'm a bad guy because I mentioned a correction. We need a correction. But that would mean that taxes would go down. That would mean that you could go in and argue that your tax bill the house isn't worth what you paid for it. To the fireworks in the background.
I do love that. I do love fireworks.
That was in perfect timing.
That was so good. Yes. Almost like it was staged. My sister just bought a condo in Ormond Beach, Florida. Now, I know this is going to be a difficult because we'll just get into it. I'll have you answer it. $270,000, 10% down, $600. I'm assuming that means a month HOA, although it could mean a year. Put it on Airbnb at $125 a day. Thoughts?
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like a good deal for me. If I had to put on, an investor hat here, and I went with, if I'm looking at, the possibility of, having 50%, vacancy or occupancy, 56%, if I'm going to balance the averages, and I'm looking at that, and I'm going to take out, the $600 a month HOA. And I'm assuming that's a month HOA. If it's annual, that would change things significantly. And then all of a sudden now the biggest thing is that I found with a lot of the Airbnb hosts, they can't recapture all the cleaning fee. Cleaning's the most important thing in an Airbnb. If you ever stayed in an Airbnb, I mean, when it's spotless, right? I mean, if you lift up the toilet lid and there's, whatever, it's not clean, and you're like, yeah, this is gross, this is dirty, right? So your cleaner is like the most important thing, and it takes hours to do a good job. If there's 4 bedrooms in there and 6 beds, and you have 3 people staying, you have to do all the beds.
Yeah.
You don't know where they
Yep. You just don't know.
Lay down or whatever. You got to treat it. You got to clean the whole thing again. So I think a lot of people they underestimate, and then you've got utilities and things like that. So it sounds, I don't know what you can get for a condo a night. It sounds like the rate is good. I just think that the price is too high.
Speaking of cleaning,
you have to furnish it. That's the thing. An average house costs about $20,000 to $25,000 for a 1,600 square foot house to outfit. And these are items that you're going to be burning through. Sheets you're burning through.
Right.
I have friends of mine that are in this business big time. They say towels, linens, your biggest expense, and you got to have luxury towels.
It's got to be
luxury
nice.
linens.
It has to feel good.
Great mattresses. You're going to burn through them.
Yes.
Mattresses are junk. They're thousands of dollars, and they don't last.
Yeah.
As soon as you start getting humps in them, ditch it out and go get a new mattress. So, you do need to know what you're doing with a lot of this. And I think this is where the entrepreneur side, the business side of things that people don't really get when they jump in. And unfortunately, it's a high stakes business because it's expensive. It's like you just bought a business, you're opening up a business and you're putting all your inventory in there and you're hoping that you didn't buy the wrong inventory. Because if people don't come in, it won't take you long before you're out of business.
I think that's a big part of it. The people that are freaking out and selling because they had no idea what went into, as you said, outfitting, cleaning, the time investment. I just don't think.
And the condos and the HOAs, they're the ones that are outlawing these things too. You got to really be careful because they can change those documents on you in a couple votes and boom, you're out of business.
Yeah.
I don't like condos or HOAs for that reason.
That,
Not
speaking
saying
of
don't live in a condo or an HOA.
Right.
I'm just saying that your rules can be changed.
Yeah. They have like a $300 cleaning fee and ask you to take out the garbage and make the beds.
Yeah, so I mean, I know a lot of people that eat the cleaning fee. They charge like $75 or $90 or $100 or something, and then they pay the bulk of the cleaning. And then what they do is they put minimum nights. So they may say minimum of 3 nights stay or something like that. When you get into, if you're renting a place for 2 nights and you're spending $150 a night to clean it, yeah, you're probably not getting the bookings. They're trying to get it all. When you're in business, and it's same goes with my business, you have profit and loss centers, and you have to make things make sense. So you might have an expense that you just can't pass through directly, right? You have to absorb the expense. So maybe you want to take a part of that expense and pass it through, but then you want to absorb the other part of that so that it's not a barrier for people to say yes to your product or service, right? So you've got all these different, sort of ways that you can make money, and then all the ways that you can disperse your expenses. So you have to be smart. When I see people doing that, usually they're the ones that have the most vacancy. Now, taking out your garbage and things like that, I mean, I know a lot of people that do that. They ask the guest that, because if you're going to stay there for a week and the garbage is coming, I mean, if you're thinking about a house, you don't want 6 garbage cans of garbage.
No.
So, when it comes to, let's say that garbage is Tuesdays, recycling is Thursdays. This is house living. This is the benefit of an Airbnb. This is, being at home. So when you're at home, you do things like that, right?
Yes.
You're not asking them to go out and cut the grass, but I would hope not. And
hope
by the way,
not.
there's a lawnmower in the shed. If you don't
way.
mind, make sure the gas is filled back up. Right? And the weed eater has the string in it.
Yeah.
Right, or you're going to get dinged on and get a bad review. No, but I think taking the trash out is a reasonable request.
Walk it to the curb.
Walk it to the curb,
Yes.
get it out there. You don't want 6 trash cans. You really upset your neighbors.
No. All right. Here is this one. What's your thought of our dollar losing its purchasing power more and more? What this is going to do? Basically, what is this going to do to the housing market?
Yeah, well, obviously it's going to make the prices go up. I mean, it's crazy because we're just going to print more and it just means less. So, it's insanity. That's another podcast, but yeah, I mean, it's, we printed more money in 2 years than we did in 200 years. We have so much. Their balance sheet is not even I mean, I don't even know what the heck you call a balance sheet anymore if you look at the Fed's balance sheet, because it's so far out of whack. I mean, nobody has to be, we're going to be trillions of dollars over budget, and that's good. That's our next fiscal spending. That's good. We're not going to bring in enough money so we're just going to have to keep printing money. That's good. What happened to balancing the books? Getting rid of things that we don't need.
How about Randy? I didn't expect you to be on tonight. I'm at the fireworks show.
All right. Randy, tell everybody we said hello, man. And
Yes.
get those oohs and ahs. Keep them flowing, man. We appreciate you guys. It's fun. A little different show tonight, different vibe. It's kind of like we're just coming off a break. I worked all weekend, but some people didn't. And
Yeah, some people me. No, it was nice. It was nice to have a couple days. I did do a little bit of work, a little bit, but it was just nice to have a long weekend. I appreciate it.
So guys, I just want to say one thing. If you're on Instagram and you haven't gone over and checked us, or is it called follow us on Instagram? Is that what it is? Follow us on Instagram. We're getting a lot of flack for not putting time in our Instagram. So I actually did a story today.
Mm-hmm. It was great.
Posted it out there.
It was a good story.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
If you look at it, I was
wearing the same shirt.
Wearing the same shirt as I was the first thing this morning.
It's okay.
I might not be as fresh smelling as anyway. The thing is, guys, if you like Instagram, you can check us out on Instagram. We are going to be posting, I think, 3 or 4 times a week. because we're going to try and appease the crowd that's saying, why aren't you on Instagram? You're nobody if you're not on Instagram.
Yeah.
So we went in and just cleaned up a lot of our posts and got rid of stuff that was like me kissing the dog and I mean, things like doesn't make any sense. Like Todd kissing a dog. Whose dog is it? That was the question because I don't own one. But anyway, it's one of those things. Anyway, guys, we got all kinds of things going on. If you're still sticking around this late, our website hopefully will be published this week. Our new website, which is cool. We're excited about that. We are hitting the road again and traveling our highest and best. I know you're like, man, you're shooting this highest and best. Going around the country, going to different cities, shooting the highest and lowest price single-family houses that are available to show you what your money gets in places like Boynton Beach, Florida, and Boca Raton, or Alexandria, Virginia, Dallas, Texas, whatever. All over the place. We're traveling. We're going to bring this. We're going to try and bring it to you once every 2 weeks or twice a month.
Yeah.
It is very time-consuming. We're hoping that we can push out one of those, I don't know, what do we say, the week after next?
Week
this
after
week.
next.
After week after this week.
Week after this week,
Yes?
I believe.
Just repeating what I'm saying, Joe. He's going, don't tell people that.
I need my calendar in front of me.
We're away next week. Oh, my gosh.
It's the following week.
Following week.
Yep.
Anyway, we're going to be doing cool stuff like vlogging, which is weird, but
It's
some
good
people
stuff.
like it.
It's good stuff to come, and really we'll hit all of the different groups on what you guys like. So,
All right, guys. Yep. Well, we'll maybe catch some window fireworks here, guys. We appreciate you spending your Independence, your Tuesday night with us. As always, we love you.
Yeah. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell, and share this with your family and friends so they can also join in on the fun every Tuesday night.
All right. Until next week.
Till next week.
See you soon.
See you soon.